I'm Mr. Rosansky, and this is a speed run of Practice Test PSA 2, the first module, the A module, the medium one. Let's initiate this test, head to the first beautiful conventions question, and lock in with our omega considerations. This is going to pop for possession, obviously. Where we want to start is up to us. I see this little comma chilling right here, and I'm immediately going to take A and C off the table. This apostrophe comma is absolutely nonsense. Theoretically, the text could have it like reading over a bridge and connect to something, but I haven't seen a question like this, so A and C are going to be easy kills to me. Then I can consider the next layer of consideration. Their or the pronoun, not pronoun. Their motion relative to the other, the relative motion of the jugglers. This proves that I use of to prove that I want possession. I do want possession here. This word is trash. Additionally, let's take him off the table. This is plural. That's saying singular juggler, and that's a disgusting thing, but still, we had to find that out to eliminate A, so why not at least start there with the massacre of A and C? We move forward. We've got another conventions question. We've got a singular omega consideration. It's going to be verb. We've got a singular. We always check number first. We've got a both. We've got a both, and we've got a both. I'm gonna all these boths. Tense comes first. I've got a present. I've got a present in A. My bad. Present in a future in B, a past in C, and a past in D. Now we can buy some sort of odd man out. It's going to be hopefully one of these guys so that we don't have to juggle aspect. Now I've got 1993, which leads me to want to jump into the past. However, when we're talking about texts, stories, plays, poems written in the past, we use the present. There is a tortoise, is that huge clue that gives us there. And that tortoise do be going. It goes by two names. And here's a list to help if we were confused. This and appears. We've got all of these easy clues to show us that the narrative present, right? We are writing about the story as if it's the present. We've got another omega consideration of possession. We can slice this in two ways. We've got two options. Do we want to tackle terms? Do we want to tackle presidents? I'm going to go after the possessive presidents for a moment. Can is a modal verb. We don't possess modal verbs. That's just subject verb agreement relationship. If B is going to be the right answer, then I should be able to say the presidents of the term. As I read this, my understanding of how the terms work. We don't have multiple presidents in one term, so this is absolutely disgusting. We could slice it the other way, that there's multiple terms. Easy peasy to land on A for 18. Move on to the next conventions question. We are going to check for our omega considerations, but nothing pops. We look for consistency in the next step. This little dashy poo looks mighty attractive to me, so I look in the text and I see another dash. I consider that I have a bridge. Scientists turn to stratigraph feet to estimate. I love that over the bridge and then under the bridge, the analysis does define the thing before and all checks. We can pick it and move on. For this next one, I've got the omega consideration complete sentence mix up, except I don't. This, and this are screaming and so close to being it, but this for example option absolutely throws it up. So the omega consideration falls, consistency falls, equivalence falls. We're on the final four. I'm going to go after this semicolon first. I'm going to check to see if I have a complete sentence on either side. The measurement is based on how much and how quickly weight can be moved. Period. Feels good to me. Probably feels good to you. You'll recognize tacitly this dependent clause and independent clause, and everything's fine. On the right side, 1 unit of mechanical horsepower is equivalent to the amount of power it takes off. Takes 500, blah, 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 period. We would like that on this side, so we're absolutely going to pick this because even though it's not popping the omega consideration complete sentence mix-up, it's applying the same principle. The rest of these would fail to join two complete sentences. We've got our subject of our independent clause there, our verb for it there. We've got another dependent clause here hidden by a sneaky, subversive, furtive relative pronoun there, but other than that, everything's fine. Pick it up, move on. Conventions, what's popping for our omega considerations? We've got pronoun, we've got a plural, we've got a plural, we've got a plural, we've got a singular. So let's bias the odd man out and go looking for the antecedent. Who or what is swirling in a massive churning whirlpool, and it's the water. Water swirls in a massive churning whirlpool. Water is singular. We're in the transition questions. What have we got on the left side? In order to do something, scientists had to developed this thing to account for all of this stuff? It was this lady who solved that problem. Absolutely. So it's not in other words because the lady isn't the all those people. Not a secondly had no firstly, certainly not an in addition. It's just scientists had to develop something, and in the end, based West is the person who did it. Next, transition questions. Few New Yorkers have heard the name. Many have seen. We seem to have contrast between heard and seen, and we've got some beautiful option present right on a silver platter for us with D. We're going to start in the clause. As carbon levels increase, the audio is distorted. Listeners can hear. Because the audio is distorted, listeners can hear. I like that because in this environment, which means I need a cause and effect one in this right side. We want to emphasize the thickness of lead 2008's neutron skin. The neutron skin is around surrounding an atom of measures about. This seems to measure thickness, even though it's thin. It's a thickness measurement. Atoms with extra required. No, this doesn't emphasize the thickness. Surrounded by doesn't emphasize the thickness. Surround the surface doesn't surround by the thickness. Let's double check to make sure this is true. I see my point 2 right there. I'm going to pick it and move on. I want to introduce Pauline to an audience unfamiliar with her career. So I want to introduce her to an audience who's unfamiliar with her career. Pauline Hopkins is the author of Hagar's Daughter, a serialized novel published from 1901 to 1902. I think that's okay. It's a novel, not a career, but it might have been it. I'll move on to the next one. African American writer Pauline Hopkins created many stories during her career, including this thing. This is awesome. It does her career by instantiating part of it with this novel, introduces her up there. Let's make sure these things are facts, and then we'll take A off the table. She absolutely was. Was she genre defining? She is genre defining. Serialized novels, one of them. 1901. It doesn't give us a year, so we don't have to worry about that. Mystery novel, everything's fine. So this is singular. This is giving a novel, which is a part of her career, but not giving her career. And we want to introduce her and her career. So A falls published. This is introducing just the book, and this one's doing just the book again. B is hitting all the aspects of introducing her and her illustrious career. Pick it and move on. Emphasize whose point of view the novel is told from. We've got a point of view right there, so that's chill. Portrays the character as a villain, doesn't tell his point of view. C is making a claim too about character's point of view, so I have to slow down a moment. Point of view. C, I can answer it. Whose point of view is the novel told from? This is the name. Now for this one, whose point of view is it told from? I can't answer it. I know that C is going to be the right answer. A falls. This features a character, but it doesn't mean that that's who their POV is from. So I'm going to double check to make sure that this is a truth bars. This novel pops out right here. The novel to novel is a retelling of the epic poem from this. True. My suspicions aligned on reality. I see this little signal element, colon, popping out right here. Anyone familiar with the writing could see the resemblance. I need a synonym of resemblance, and we're going to be an imitation. Love it. I don't see any signal element on this side, so I'll go this way. Ooh, we've got a for example Reno. So for example, African languages also made important contributions to the dialect. For example, it can be similar or traced back to how they're pronounced there because they're contributing to. A is definitely going to be the right answer. In fact, pops out as a signal element, radically altered, absolutely transformed. Pick it and move on. However, and a colon on both sides. We love colons when they're close to the end. So let's go this way. We slide on through to the cheaperino ways. Cheap, 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 cheap. It's going to be inexpensive. 4. Logically imprecise word or phrase to improve this system. Let's go this way. What's the system? People were, well, that's how they were avoiding it, but here's the system. So to improve the system, finally we got our system. The system is delivery to be paid upon receipt. Oof, all that effort. Then we've got another signal element here kicking us this way. A postage stamp does it. Paid by sender. So to improve the system, fixes were proposed. Reforms matches my fixes. What's the main purpose of the text? Let's go to the last sentence and grab this. He used stories with the maps. Then we're going to the start of the piece, one sentence at a time. He completed a bunch of maps. Completed a collection. He completed a greatest hits. Greatest hits. This collection was title title, cause, to create the collection, how he made. He also did this thing. So it's all about this one little map collection. No, though map making matters. That's an inference that I step outside of the text for to explain how travelers created map. No, this is how a person created a person compiled a bunch, but this is trying to get me to trap to just focus on the last sentence. To describe a collection of medieval maps and how it was to just sees beautiful, does exactly that. It doesn't compare any of those things. What's the main purpose of the text? Let's go to the last sentence. Grab it and go. They found that the discussion was more civil. Okay, let's go to the start and start reading. The study concluded Marbalani. So that's like the same thing at the end. There was a study. Here is the method. Here is spent a few minutes reading one thing, control group. This is what they did. This is the study. Here's the study. That's all that I'm kind of being told here. Nothing really seems wildly significant for this, but all right. Let's engage with our answers over here. To describe a widely held belief, and I don't remember ever reading anything about a wildly held belief, so no thank you, no thank you. To argue that the research, I don't remember any contentious language about the argument or the surprise. To suggest ways to improve a certain study's design. Nope, this just was their design. It just was the conclusion and how they got there. We're going to have to zoom out for this chunker. One zoom might be enough. How does text 1 respond to the findings of text 2? So we'll read this in the cache order. Let's give this a highlight and start engaging. What do they say? Maiko, alternate to meat. Cool. Next sentence. Studies of the environmental impact of the food that is lower than beef, better than beef for impact, better than beef for sure, kinda like chicken or pork. So it's better than beef, but it's kind of like chicken or pork rather. Okay. Read the next sentence. But the expense of producing microprotein, too expensive. But the expense of producing restricts it. So too expensive, so only a few can do it. Knowing that reducing cost would be based. Easiest way is a cheaper substrate. So, this is like a crazy world that we're living in where this thing needs to eat other things for us. What about those poor little substrate that they eat? Oh, I guess the substrate might just be like sugar water. But on a micro scale, maybe something is suffering. Who knows? So, how are they going to respond to the findings mentioned in this next one? Okay. How are they going to respond to the findings mentioned in the first one? I don't know. Let's read it. Cattle farming is a principal cause of global deforestation. Where's this first sentence end? Okay, here. My bad. Cattle is bad. What would they say so far? They would say, yeah, cattle is bad. We've got a way to reduce deforestation. Why don't you use our little mycoproteins? Cattle is bad. A study on that replacing 20%. Oh, they agree with that too. 20% would solve the defor problem. Yeah, but they're going to say, yeah, we might have found that, but it's so expensive. But it is so expensive, bud. That's what they would say so far. They would say, yeah, this could do this. Yeah, this could do this thing, but it's so expensive. However, this would involve only a small change in water consumption. However, this would likely involve only a small change in agricultural water consumption, since water once dedicated would be diverted to raising. Okay, so they're focused on water consumption in the environment. But they're saying that and they are too, but they're just saying it's expense is the focus. They would say, okay, your findings are cool, but who cares about water? It's about the money. By emphasizing that text 1 would say, since agricultural water consumption remains static in the event of replacing, no, they wouldn't. And then the rest of this, no, they wouldn't say anything about the water consumption, or I guess they might grant that, but they're saying that it's basically the same as chicken and pork. So that falls for that reason. Then we can move on to the next part of by asserting the development of a more inexpensive substrate production would contribute. Yes, they would say, okay, whatever this is about water, we can save some money if we can get a juicier little fluid for these little guys to eat. So 8B is looking attractive. But I noted that most people would likely as a no, what? Their opinions they wouldn't be presenting. By pointing out the opinions of people wouldn't be presenting, by pointing out that some countries are responsible for greater deforestation than others and thus to have significant. This is not what they care about. That's the shining of blame. Their biggest problem is the expense. Get out of my face, B. What's the main topic? All right, topic. What does this end in? I'm not gonna. This is so short. I know that I can. I don't know. We'll always do the right thing, even when the right thing makes us type a lot of stuff. So we are talking about he thinks the stone will unlock language stuff. Let's go to the first sentence. What do we got there? They found a stone. The next sentence, looking at the stone. Looking at the stone. Yeah, the site, we got the stone from a time period, a rune stone found in Norway. What did they find about surfactants? What do we know about surfactants? Surfactants. Microplastics are a tiny wave of concentration of microparticles and fewer waves. A study by these people found that the concentration of microplastics cannot be the only reason to reduce wave activity because the concentration of particles that would have been observed in the effect is much higher than those found in the ocean. However, they found that surfactants, finally, chemicals often are released into the water from microplastics and have a much stronger wave reducing effect. They have a much stronger wave effect on wave effect than microplastics alone. Absolutely. No, I don't remember that. We only had one sentence. I don't, whatever this is saying, my detail here lands it. This might be something that I can infer but what they discovered is this. They found, absolutely, A is going to be the right answer. I want to complete the text. One pop out on the Zoom, incorporated and unincorporated self-employment rates in 4 occupational fields. Cool. A study of unincorporated and incorporated found that the highest incorporated self-employment rate, the highest incorporated self-employment rate, it's going to be something from this column, 9.8, management, 11 is D, easy every time. Joanna, as someone who admires ambition in other people's to the exclusion of all other qualities, was mightily interested in people who had a purpose. I love that. This is to the exclusion of all other qualities. I don't know if this does that, but this first part certainly maps. I'm going to put B on the table. Indeed, from the beginning, Joanna showed a preference to her father. No, we have no idea that the father has ambition. Joanna was like her father, not only so far as ambition was concerned, but also in her willingness to work. No. So this this would be tough if we were looking at B and C at the same time, because we would plug C into B and we would love B, but we've taken B off the table. This statement is merely showing that she likes her, that a trait of her is to be ambition, but not in her willingness to work. But we have no idea that she likes it in other people unless we plug B into C and C into B, which we're not allowed to do. She had a good sense of logic. That's awesome. She sounds like an awesome person, but this is the only one that does it. I didn't initially like otherwise not at all, to the exclusion of all of their qualities, but I will grant that it maps onto this to the exclusion of all. So like, yeah, I can appreciate that means that. Which choice best describes data in the work? Oh gosh, did we? Oh, we didn't pick one here. Shoo. Which describes data in the graph that supports the researcher's conclusion? Humility scores for participant scenario responses. Let's zoom out once. If I slide over, can we? No, we're in a bad spot. So the researcher's conclusion after evaluating the responses, the researchers concluded the hypothesis correct, but where's the hypothesis? Hypothesis. Okay, let's summarize this guy. Workplace leaders, isn't that what we're, participants, people, leaders who reflect on mistakes, have more humility than no reflect. And this confirmed it. So let's slide this over, start engaging with this chart. And if we have to, we'll read more. So, supports the researchers' conclusion that their hypothesis was true, that reflection is more than no reflection. None of the 3 groups were above 3.5. Now that's true, but I mean, it's true. We'll put them on the table. The managers in the control group exhibited only slightly less than the 2 experimental groups? No. It's right in the middle. B is a liar. The managers who reflected on past mistakes that resulted in learning, so that's this one, exhibited more humility than everything, so that's going to be true no matter what, than managers in the other 2 groups did. So that's true. I'm going to take A off the table just because their hypothesis wasn't that no matter what, humility will be over 3.5 or be under 3.5. That wasn't it. This is like one is more than the other, and vaguely saying that it's all above doesn't give me what I want. D, all 3 groups exhibited less humility on average. Yeah, A and D are like equally wrong. D I can't even map. I don't even know what the average did. Maybe something in there says it, but I don't think so. This one scoops up the other 2 groups of the control and without and just absolutely bodies my claim in a good way. It supports it entirely. 13 is definitely C. Let's move on to the next one. What do we got here? We've got a because. I love when a sentence starts with a because and has a ton of stuff because that's like a strong look. Because males are shaped differently depending on which colors they produce. Are shaped differently because males' color is caused by shape, or maybe I have that backwards. Because males' color is caused by shape, they could make a guess. Okay, this feels like juicy enough that I can go for it. Show how melanomes can be found in fossils This seems wrong. This can be found. No, we can find out the color from the shape or the shape from the color, one of the two. Determine the color of birds based on the appearance of the melanosomes. In fact, yes, male's color is caused by shape. So the shape can determine color. Yeah, this maps on exactly what I've got. Explains why the feathers were so well referred. Nope, we can just know what they look like. And then identify the colors who lack males. No. Males are shaped differently. Identify the color of extinct animals. Males are shaped differently depending on what colors. Identify this is if anything, we need this thing. We need this in order to extrapolate this. D is saying that we could do this without something mentioned in the text. D falls. 14b. On our final one, let's see what we've got here. We've got calculation mode. Calculation mode does what? So we have to go back a sentence. Conversely, calc mode does what? Calc mode aims to lower cost and inconvenience. Users were more likely chose standard even if green. This is going to be tough. I'm doing a lot here. I'm going to go in. So calculation mode aims to lower cost and inconvenience. Okay, hold on. These findings should be using cost and calculation mode. Calculation mode aims to lower cost and inconvenience. So users chose standard even if green was cheaper. So I want to say something about inconvenience. Super green was mad inconvenient, because if calculation mode, they wanted to use calculation mode, chose a standard plan, even if, so part of the things they care about was financial cost and personal inconvenience. Green was perceived to be mad inconvenient. I think that's going to be something that I like. The conversely, though, maybe go back a sentence. So calc mode were equally unlikely to factor the financial savings of the green plan into their decision making, as were participants using either the effect or rule. Oh, we'll have to read more. I'm going to see beyond the table to see if I may have been less strongly motivated to appear socially responsible with their choice of plan than they realized. Oof, we got to read more. I have to know more. Okay, let's go back a sentence. Right now, we'll tidy this up because this is going to get, I can just feel this in my bones. Let's go all this. Blue. Note it up. It's okay. We're not discouraged, though. These puzzles are so much fun. We just want to take them slow and be methodical so that we don't make any crazy mistakes. Self-reported. Affect A or R. Which choices had been stronger, positive or respectively? Oh my gosh. So affect mode, role mode. Role mode was social impact. Affect mode was positive, emotional. Both are positive, but I'll remember that. Emotional impact. We're more likely chose green, chose green, chose green. Now, I'm pretty sure I know what green and standard means, but I might as well just read this first sentence so I have everything. Crystal Reek and colleagues studied whether the decision-making modes that guide consumers' influence the choices between non-environmentally friendly, the choices that studies self-reported using either an effect mode. Conversely, participants using a calculation mode. Yeah, so B is going to come off the table. They might not, the users of calculation mode, like I might be a user of calculation mode, but there's no like, then I realized. This part's trash. A's on the table. I'm going to look at C. May have determined that the calculation mode uses people who did calculation mode may have determined that green plan imposed additional burdens on them that were not sufficiently offset by the potential financial savings. Yes. Yeah, they loved money, but they still didn't pick it. I like that a lot. I'm going to go back to, so I found one that maps on, so that participants using calculation mode were equally unlikely to factor the financial savings of the green plan into as were. No, I don't know if we can make this claim. So they prioritized, they factored it in. There's no statement that these people didn't factor it in. Everybody might have factored it in. Effect only cared about kindness. They just didn't want the cost savings. It was just too inconvenient. C is the right answer. Let's look at D. We're less likely to believe that the green plan, calc was truly cost effective than were participants using effect or role modes. They were suspicious. They were less likely to believe that the green plan was truly cost effective than were, even when it's truly cost effective. No, they just thought it was inconvenient. That was my claim. They love, no, that could be fine. Either effect or role modes. So this is saying that effects and role was that it was super cost. Oh no, that I could just grant that this first part's true, but then it's not saying that the effect people are not saying that it's so cost effective and they're picking it. They're picking it even if it were expensive. They were saying it because they want the impact. Defaults. C's the right answer. What a fun puzzle, man. These questions are tough, but I absolutely love what they get to do for like your mind. A little workout. Thanks for hanging out.